I'm going to tell you guys a few stories. The first one is going to start way back when I was a little kid, 5, 6, 7-ish years old. My dad had, and he was not a collector by any means, but he had a small collection of baseball cards, basketball, football. I think there might have even been some hockey cards if I remember. I think they were like some special little giveaway from Pizza Hut. I think I remember like they had like these coupons on the back and maybe you could pop them out. Might be misremembering because I was real young, but I kind of remember that, okay? My dad collected those cards, and I remember when I was a little kid asking him about them, and he gave me the response that I think a lot of like boomer parents gave their kids in that time in the early 2000s, which was, "Oh, this is going to pay for your college one day." And there was this whole big misconception because stuff like Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, sold for like millions at auction. And suddenly you had the big Image Comics boom. And simultaneously there was another boom going on with sports cards at the time. And I think my dad was one of those guys that fell for it and bought a bunch of sports cards. And I just remember throughout the years, I don't know who made this decision, if it was me being a silly little kid or if it was him or even my mom. Somebody along the way took all those cards and they dumped them into a suitcase, into like a small suitcase. And sometimes I would just haul it around the house, or I would go outside with the suitcase and I would just carry it along with me. And then I would, find some place to sit down. Maybe if I brought it to the living room, I would sit down in front of the TV in the living room, or I would take it outside to the front porch and I would just, sit in the warm sun and watch the cars go by. And I would open up the suitcase and I would take the cards and I would face them all one way, or I would sort them, and just by being thrown into the suitcase, loose, like they're all loose, the corners would get bent and dulled, and just being a little kid, sometimes you're like, I'm curious what happens if I rip this in half, And I treated them horribly, and thank God they were nothing that would have paid for my education, because they were worth like 1 cent. They were just mass produced, like the ones like the NBA hoops like series from the 90s. It's it's got like the like gray silvery kind of border like that, and I think there might be like I think there's only one card from that set I could think of, and I don't even know if I ever had it, that I could think of that actually does sell, and that's that was it the Menendez brothers? They're in like the background of a card because they were at a sideline at a show or something. And anyways, that was like my dad's whole collection. And I would always sit there and I would just think, oh man, this is going to pay for my college. It's going to be like $1 million. And then, I think probably by the time I was around the age of 9, I was like, wait a second, that's all bullshit. These can't be worth anything. And then I hit, how old was I? Maybe, let's say 12. I think I was like 12 and I started watching basketball. I'd never been a sports fan. I kind of joined the team, and when I say joined, I mean this. I went to a very small Christian school, and basically, there's no tryouts. You go, yeah, I'll be on the team. Oh, okay, and then you're on the team. So I wasn't really into sports before, but I just wanted to try it, and I really liked basketball. I didn't play much. I didn't get much playing time, but I really liked it, and I became a fan. I started watching a lot of basketball. And from watching it, I just sort of remembered my dad's card collection, and I was watching basketball, and I was playing basketball, and I was like, this is really cool, and I kind of started to form my first hobby. Now, I had some little hobbies when I was growing up, small stuff. I liked to read a lot, which was something I ended up getting out of, and then I kind of came back to later in life, but I did like to read a lot as a kid. I even thought things like stamps or coins were pretty cool. And then later on, it's funny, everything you liked when you were a kid, you kind of like outgrow, or people make fun of you for it. And then when you get older, you're like, no, I had it right. It was cool all along. And then when I got older, I was like, oh, coins. These are actually real interesting, and I like to collect coins. And never got back into stamps, though. That might have been the only one that wasn't cool. But everything that like I liked as a kid, it's like, I grew up, I was like, oh, that's cool. So then when I was like 12, I was like, well, wait a second, like those cards. And I like looked at them and I was like, I was having like the, like the angel and devil on my shoulder. One of them was like no, you already know it's worthless. We don't have anything valuable in this house. The other one's like, no, but maybe he was right, you know. And so I was like, okay, now I know about basketball. So and I'm learning about cards, and I open up the suitcase. I'm like, yeah, it's all worthless. And I started to buy, sell, and trade cards on YouTube, and did a little bit on eBay. Went to a couple card shows, not many. I did go to like the National Card Show, I want to say in 2013, I think, and had some good times. But I would say the very best part about being a collector isn't having the giant collection necessarily. I mean, that's cool, you know, that's the essential part. I love having, you guys can't even see the half of it. I've got 7 bookshelves. I've mentioned several times I've sold off big chunks of my collection, and I still don't have room for everything. The reason things are piled up like this, I've got no room really to like sort it and have everything neat. I need more bookshelves. I have no room, and I've got 7 of them, okay? That part's awesome. But what's really cool is when you could connect with some other people that they share the same interest in you, and not people that are trying to sell you something. We're going to have parts in this video probably that are rants about YouTube, because the thing I don't like about YouTube is this. You know, well, let me rewind a bit. Let me keep where I was going first. The cool part to me as a kid, especially, I was 12, 13, 14, 15. Around the time I turned 16, I started selling everything. Because I had barely turned 17 when I started college. So around like 16 to 17-ish, that's when I was selling everything. I finished high school at 16. Right when I turned 17, like a month later, I was in college. So that's around the time I started selling everything off. And for me, being a kid and being broke, and, you know, I had my small collection, I really loved watching YouTube videos, and I loved connecting with other people. And there were many people that were my age that were doing YouTube videos, and lots of people, plenty that were older, and vicariously I could experience, you know, them buying all the cards. And I always thought when I was a kid, this is going to be me one day. And I don't collect cards anymore, by the way. But, you know, as a kid, I was like, that's going to be me. I would see guys buying big cases of cards, buying the boxes, buying specific cards they wanted, having their huge collection, having their man cave with everything, with having, like, the big pool table, having, you know, just, like, signed jerseys on the walls, and having, like, their binders and their boxes and all their fancy sets, and everything's in a top loader or in one of those fancy magnetic cases. And, oh, my God, I felt like so cool when I first bought my first magnetic cases for some of my cards, and that was really what I envisioned. And what I liked about YouTube back then is, you know, you would get these guys, they would come on a video, and they would go, they would just hold their phone, or maybe they had, I found some like awful little camera, but it like doesn't really work, but I found this recently, this little camera, you know, they would take their awful, like the prime, like YouTube internet era is when people had cameras like these, okay? But people would, you know, they would just take, the dude would just take his little camera, and his cards would be on a desk, they'd be on his bed, they'd be, you know, in a box somewhere, and he would just go like, hey guys, we've got a basketball fan 18 here, and today we're looking at my card collection. So we've got, and then, you know, they would go through, you know, we've got the, you know, there would be, oh my God, I remember so many, like, dudes that had, like, really, like, high-end collections, and they would go through, like, the Topps Tall Boy, I forget the exact year now, it slips me, but the series Topps did that was, like, a little bit taller than a regular basketball card, and it was a white, and it had the Lou Alcindor rookie card before he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I would just, oh my God, and it would just be so cool seeing people just go through their collection. And that was really important to me. And, you know, people would do videos on different topics around cards or sports. And that was the fun part of being a collector, was having that community. Now everybody tries to sell you on something. And they start the videos like this, and this is what I hate. You know, you get like a minute of intros, and hi, welcome to my channel. If you're here for the first time, welcome. I'm whoever, you know, I'm Nasser, and on my channel you'll find, and they give you like the whole rundown of everything you'll find on their channel. They got to tell you like and subscribe as if, okay, maybe, like if this were like 2006 and no one knew how to use the internet, maybe, I don't know, but I just don't like that, because we all know how YouTube works. If you like the video, then you're gonna press the thumbs up, If you want to watch more of somebody's videos, you're going to click subscribe. Why do people always say that? I purposely avoid it because I want to give you guys like the 2006 like YouTube experience where a dude would have a topic and he starts the video and he just gets right into that topic. You guys remember like the late 2000s, like, oh my god, I need like a tutorial on this thing, like how do I fix this thing? You know, you'd open up YouTube, you click on a video and the guy's like, hello, this is a tutorial for how to fix this or how to install this, and here we go. And he would just go right into it. Like, I love that stuff. I hate how, like, corporate, like, brand that YouTube's gotten, where it's like, you know, they always have to remind you to subscribe and buy my merch and sign up for my Patreon and all my courses and buy my book and all that stuff. And I just don't like that. I don't like being shilled to constantly by everybody. I don't think anybody likes it. And I just really think that stuff's lame, okay? So I grew up with, you know, the whole point of this first story I want to tell you guys, which is really just me getting into cards and my experiences with YouTube, is, you know, YouTube it used to be really fun, and it wasn't ruined by, like, flippers, and the whole community was interesting. You could, you know, as a kid, I could afford to have a fun card collection. You know, my parents might have bought me maybe one thing here or there for like a birthday, but like I, you know, shoveled snow. I did chores. I sold cards. I, you know, did what I could as a kid, you know, to scrape together a little bit of money. You know, I sold things on eBay. If I could find something around the house we didn't need anymore and I could sell it for like $50, you know, I sold it for like $50, and I'd be like, cool, you know, like, here, Mom, here's the money to like ship it out, and I could buy like my card, right, or I could buy like a little, you know, pack or something from the store, and that was like the, you know, like the glory days, man. So that's how YouTube used to be, and YouTube across the board, not just for like any sort of collecting community. It's like this now where, you know, everybody's got to be corporate and shill. And, you know, I even had a comment on one of my earliest videos on this channel where somebody said, they either said, say and less or cut them out. I hate the choppy style of YouTube editing now, where it's like, they say like a sentence or half a sentence, and then you have like an obvious cut, like a hard cut, because maybe they had to breathe, or maybe they had to take a sip of water, because we're all afraid to drink water now on video. See, was that so bad? They're all afraid to do it now, so then it like cuts, and they're trying to make themselves seem like they're a great speaker. I'll tell you this, I've listened to many great speakers that say or need to take a pause. There's nothing wrong with needing to take a pause and collect your thoughts. So I just don't like the style of YouTube now, and if there's ever any community I try to get into, whether it's books, whether it's movies, whether it's anything, it's all become very, you know, the YouTuber has to have a clickbait title. I really hate seeing titles like this. For instance, I watch a lot of videos on books and writing, being an author myself. I really hate videos that are titled like this. I read 100 books, and this is the worst way to start them. Or, do this to improve your marketing. Or, you know, I used to be obese, and I watch a lot of, like, health, fitness, you know, gym bro channels. And, fix your diet with this. Or, this is the #1 exercise to grow your biceps. I hate that stuff. I hate that people can't just be direct. They always want to do, you know, a clickbait title. Oh, you have to know. They got to do the shocked YouTuber face. Please don't screenshot that, my little shocked example, okay? But they always got to do that, and I just severely dislike it, okay? So this has all kind of been one story. Another story I want to tell you guys, and I'm getting to like a kind of a rant here is what we're going to build up to. There is a convention by me. I did not go this year. I went the past 3 years. The Windy City Pulp and Paper Convention. I know it's kind of a silly name for a convention, and it's full of boomers. I don't know if there was anybody besides me there that was under the age of like 60, okay? It's full of people that are like 60, 70, like old boomers. But the thing is, you know, it's a convention for vintage paperbacks, pulp paperbacks, magazines, things of that nature. And I really love vintage paperbacks, and that's what I go for. I did not go this year. One, I just didn't feel like it. Two, I've spent enough money. But I also really dislike the way hobbies are right now. And real quick, before I go into my rant, I'll tell you like the story I had at the first time I went to this convention. And I bought this book and a few others, but this is like the one that really kind of sticks out for me. I have not read this book. It's a horror novel called Dead Voices by Rick Hodela. And you could see the $6 price tag is still there on the plastic, right? So this seller was the only one really that had any horror novels. The vast majority at this convention, they're buying things which I like like detective, pulp, like older stuff, mystery, suspense, of that nature, which I do read, but that can be very overpriced. Everything now that's like vintage is overpriced. But I was mostly there for horror novels at the time, and when I grabbed this one, this is not like some steal. Let me say that, where it's like this isn't like a book where you'll open eBay and be like, oh my god, it's like $85. Can't believe it was only $6. It's the kind of book that like is worth $1, and your half-price books would probably ask you for $15 if you want to buy it from half-price books. Okay. But I pick it up for $6, and I'm holding this in my hand. This is like the first one I, notice and grab. I'm like, yeah, I'll get this one. And I'm looking through the box, and I'm like making conversation with the guy. And, at the end of our transaction, I think I probably bought like 3-4 books from him. He, just kind of, older guy, maybe like 50s. And he's a book dealer from like another state, and he's got a store in another state, and kind of just like, taps this and, says something like, we used to sell all these for like 50 cents to $1. I can't believe, people are still paying like $6 for these. I can't believe it. And that really pissed me off, okay? Because I'm like, why don't you charge $1 then if you're so shocked? People are only paying $6 because you refuse to go down. This gentleman refused to haggle. Here's the thing. If you ever go to a convention, I've been to like a vinyl record convention. I've been to many comic book conventions. This was my first book convention. If you pay cash, they always go down. They could take off $5, $10, something, right? This man refused. It was like the only time in my life, or maybe actually the second time. I've got like an awful Comic-Con story. I don't know if I'll have time for it, but this guy refused to haggle. Okay, he would not take off any money. And then at the end, he has the audacity to tell me, I'm surprised people are still paying $6 for these crummy paperbacks because we used to sell them for 50 cents or $1. Now, actually, I do have one more little story, and it's quick before I really enter into more of a rant. And that was, I started buying comic books in 2013. And I remember joining a lot of Facebook groups and talking to a lot of people. And I remember one guy who seemed really rubbing hands together smarmy to me. I can't remember who he was or much about the conversation, but there was one thing that stuck out to me. And that was the price of comic books. And in particular, he was talking about flipping 90s comic books. Now, he said something along the lines of oh, think about how much money people would pay for a comic book from the 1800s. It won't be too long until they would want something from the 1900s or from the 90s, and just because of the year. And I was thinking, this dude's pretty crazy. Like who would think that way? And it turns out there's plenty of people that think that way. Because now anything that's even from the early 2000s, people will want to market as vintage or a collector's item. But let me be straight with you guys. I remember when collector's items were like this, okay? Back when I collected sports cards, they would have different, kind of almost like how a comic book would do a variant cover, although I don't know if there was an exact term for this in the card days. Let's say you would have, I want to say, a Kevin Durant rookie card. I think I remember it being like this. You had your standard Kevin Durant rookie card. You would have the Kevin Durant rookie card that, let's say, it has an orange border. So the regular rookie card does not have any numbering on it. It's, maybe they printed 2 million, who knows. Random numbers. Then let's say with the orange border. That would be, like the orange variant, let's say. And then the orange one would be like, you'd get it with a number on it. So it would say on the back of it, like, we made 5,000 of these. This is number 82 or something. And then you would get like a yellow border, and then the number goes down. So it's like maybe they only made 1,000 of these. And then it would go down to like maybe this one had 500, this one had 250, and this one had 100. And then eventually you get down to like the 1 of 1, which is like the printing plate. All right? Collector's items used to be this. We all have the standard Kevin Durant rookie card. And maybe a few of us have, one with an orange border or a yellow border. And let's say the more rare it gets, there's a small price increase, let's say of $5. This is all random examples, just, how I remember things being from collecting cards from like 09 to like 2014, okay? By the time we got to one that was like collector's item, the equivalent of the math would be this. The regular one, let's say you get for $5, the collector's item is like 25 or $30. Yes, it's a premium. It's nothing that you would go broke over, and it's certainly something that, I maybe could have afforded, when I was a kid collecting and starting out with my little collection of cards. Nowadays, collector's items are this. It's not rare. It's not desirable. It's just old and possibly out of print. Now, out of print does not mean rare. It just means it's out of print. If we're talking about, which is what I mostly want to rant about, which is books. Many old books now have come back into print, particularly if we're talking about horror, because horror novels are kind of the ones I've read the most of and what I've kept up with for most of the time that I've been buying books. For horror novels, there are, you could see this whole shelf here. Maybe you can't even see it. I've got so much junk in the way. But this whole shelf here is from a publisher called Valancourt Books. There's also, I was just looking at them the other day. I want to say that it's called Fathom Press, and there's a few others that have been bringing horror novels back into print. You see, when the book Paperbacks from Hell was published, maybe I should check when that was. I've got it right here. I want to say this is maybe 2016. I want to say, if I could find the darn, I don't even see like the little copyright pages normally at the start. They might have put it at the end. Yeah. Okay, this is copyright 2017. So, when this book came out, Paperbacks from Hell, it kind of made the demand for these books skyrocket. Not because they were any good. I'm not saying they're all trash, by the way. I'm just saying, it's not like we have, like, the whole book is full of hidden gems. It's not because they were good, not because they were rare. It's all because people saw that the covers were cool and they wanted them. And they thought maybe I could find something obscure to read, a nice hidden gem. The average reader, that's their thoughts. The prices skyrocketed because flippers have ruined every hobby. People think that just because a book was in Paperbacks from Hell, that now it has to have some outrageous premium. Everything's a collector's item. It was mentioned in this book, it's a collector's item now. It's from 1982, it's a collector's item now. And what I really hate is that, it's not just the outrageous flippers. It's not just these guys that they want to make a buck on eBay, so they price everything real high. It's the people that keep buying it. I'm in an interesting Facebook group that's for people that like books of this nature and that really pop for the old horror arts. Like, let me put this up close here to the camera so you can see like just how sick and gnarly those covers are. Like, they are really gnarly covers. Like, you could skip to any page in this book, if you guys could see that. You could skip to any page in here, and these are like the best covers you've ever seen. They're certainly better than, I was just at Barnes & Noble yesterday, certainly better than anything you'll find in a bookstore now, cover art-wise, because of the paintings. But that does not justify the price. And what I hate is that in this Facebook group, I've seen two particular instances in maybe the last like 2 weeks maybe. I don't look in it too often. I try not to go on social media. But it's like every time I open Facebook and I see a post from this group, it's always, who bought this? And it's a screenshot of something from selling on eBay. The other day I saw one, it was about a frog. I can't remember the title of it. Maybe it's just something as simple as like croak. And then there was another one I saw last night about like a killer dog or something. And I just did not understand why these are selling for hundreds of dollars. I don't know if it's somebody that just doesn't know any better. I don't know if it's somebody that they've got money to burn. I don't know if it was even real and it's just somebody is shilling in hopes that they could, price gouge if they have multiple copies. But it is not fun collecting books anymore, because if I want to go into half price books, they put the sticker right on the book. I mean, I might even have some, I don't want to sort through everything now and go on a rabbit trail, but I've got some books over here that half price books, they put a price tag on it, a sticker, $20 straight on the cover, and then right below it they'll put another one that says out of print right on the cover. We're not talking on the plastic. If you saw this book here, has it's in a plastic case, and they put the sticker right on the plastic, the one that I got from the convention. At half price books, they're putting it directly on the cover. I guess the big point I want to make is this, and that's that collecting anything has now become a hobby for doctors and lawyers. You now have to be a doctor or a lawyer if you want to afford your average vintage horror paperback. I just can't stand it. Every time I look in a Facebook group that allows the selling of books, it's some guy that wants to post just these beat up copies of books that probably have fallen in a toilet somewhere, and that he probably got from going to small bookshops or estate sales or whatever, or wherever you find cheap books. And then he's posting pictures of them. He's like, everything in this book is $30, and everything in this everything in this photo, every book in this photo is $30. Everyone in this other photo is $40, and everyone in this one's $50. And the prices are firm, and I know what I got. Don't lowball me. And look, I don't have any problem if anybody wants to make a profit. I'm just saying that there's been, for the whole history of these books, they have been sold for $1, for 50 cents, for $2. There's just no reason on earth why the average horror paperback now should be $15. There's no reason to price gouge, and there's no reason to encourage this. The prices are only staying so high because these sellers are making so much money, because everybody's just too silly to say, no, I'm not going to give you $40 for a dumb paperback. Especially when most of these are not well written. Have you guys looked at any of the reviews of any of these books? Have any of you guys even looked for a reprint first? They are coming back into print all the time. Every other day I'm seeing a new horror paperback that's been announced that's coming back into print. Especially the major ones from Paperbacks from Hell. Seems like The Voice of the Clown is the only one where nobody could figure it out and reprint it, but take it from me, because, okay, I rant about this topic, but you could give me the fell for it again badge. Well, no, not again. The fell for it once. I fell for it once badge. I bought The Voice of the Clown, but I did not spend $100 on it like some of you clowns have done on eBay. I spent $40 on my copy. Maybe $45, I can't remember because it's been a long time, but I did find one guy selling it on Amazon. I sent him an offer, would you take this much? And he actually did come down, and I bought it. I read it. It's nothing special. The author of Paperbacks from Hell, Grady Hendrix, said in his section on The Voice of the Clown, it's the best one I read out of all of these. It's so crazy. The scene made my jaw drop. The scene, and again, I spoil everything on this channel. I really don't care. The scene in question is that a baby dies. And I'm just like, okay, buddy, is this your first horror novel or something? Is this your first horror movie? That was it? It was the biggest George Costanza, walking onto the private jet or whatever, and he's just like, this is it? That was me reading The Voice of the Clown. I could not believe I spent $40 on that thing, and I learned my lesson. I think more of you have to learn your lesson too. I just can't stand this. And you know what? It's part of all physical media too. It's not just books, it's in movies. It's these companies will have a sale, and they'll say, okay, we put out this really awful TV movie from 1992 on 4K for some reason, and it's $78. But in our sale, it's only $68, so you should get it. I don't want to sound like old man yells at cloud, but I can't really talk about movies without talking about the influencer culture. All right? I'm specifically talking about these people that want to be Blu-ray and DVD and 4K influencers, the kind of guy that really wishes that one of these companies like Scream Factory would contact him and be like, hey, we love your YouTube channel, man. We love that you love movies. Can you give us like a blurb to put on the back of a new Blu-ray? So that way the guy could be like, it's 2 thumbs up for me, bro. The best way I could really describe the post-pandemic collectors are, it's like review copy culture, and they just have real shallow energy. But at the same time, I can't blame them totally for being so shallow, because it's these companies too that are very shallow. For instance, there are new releases coming out now that are $70, and nobody bats an eye. And I'm sorry, but I've been buying Blu-rays and DVDs and 4Ks since probably like late 2018ish, and before 2020, I can't tell you if I ever even could fathom like a $70 new release. Like maybe if it was like a big fancy like set with like 10 movies in it or something, but now it's $70, nobody bats an eye. And that's not even to mention that right now, if you go into Walmart, I think the new Blu-rays come out on Tuesdays. You walk in there and you want to get the new 4K of whatever new movie comes out. You're spending $29.99 for one 4K disc, okay? It used to be you'd pay $22.99. You get a Blu-ray disc and a 4K disc and a digital copy. Now you're paying way more and you're getting way less. And there's so many people that make excuses for these companies because it's the whole review copy culture. If I tell them we love getting less for paying more, maybe I'll get a review copy. And I just really can't stand this too. This is another thing too that I've seen, and I think it's another like post-pandemic collector trait, and that's when they won't like gatekeep or leave well enough alone. So I talked a little bit just briefly about like whenever one of these companies has their sale, right? They're little like, it's halfway to Black Friday, any excuse for a sale. I see this all the time. Some of these companies will tell you how many copies of a Blu-ray are left in stock on their website. And a week before the sale, people will start posting, this one's got 300 copies left in stock. Grab it now at full price before the sale because it's going to sell out before the sale. Why not let somebody get a deal? You know, there's like no such thing as like discovery anymore. That goes for Blu-rays and for books, but I do want to give a side tangent here and say I do think it's worse for books. We'll come back to movies in a minute. But it's way worse for books with the price gouging because I want to show you guys something. Now, I've talked about prices just being gouged for no reason because the cover's cool. I've got a bunch of these Dell paperbacks that are Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Now, Alfred Hitchcock had nothing to do with these. This company licensed his name and likeness, and they just put a bunch of short stories together. Some are public domain short stories. The vast majority of them are from names you would know. Ray Bradbury, Richard Matheson, those kind of guys. Anybody really that wrote an episode of The Twilight Zone, they're probably in one of these paperbacks. And I've got quite a few of these Alfred Hitchcock ones. And when I open these, I always see like this. If I could get it into focus there. Sorry, it's not focusing, but you guys, it's always signed by a little kid. Like, any of these I could open, and I'll find, like, some little kid sign their name up in the corner there of this paperback. And they'll check off, like, which stories they've read. And, I mean, you know, something I liked as a kid was just walking into... just walking into a library or walking into a bookstore with my mom and just going down and not knowing what I could find. And now everything's become, I've got to flip this on eBay. I've got to flip this on Marketplace. I got to get everything that looks remotely cool. There's no opportunity for anybody to ever discover anything anymore. All right, back to the post-pandemic collectors. Now, this is something I really despise, and that's that they will shill for any and every release. For example, let's say a random movie, I'm just drawing a name out of a hat, Fright Night. Fright Night will come out on 4K. People will buy the 4K. It'll come out next with a brand new steelbook. And the art's the same, but it has a yellow pinstripe. I'm just making this all up. Somebody will, all these collectors will be like, making videos like, oh no, now we have to get it because it has the pinstripe. Don't you want it because it has a little pinstripe? It has a little extra yellow on the cover. Please give me a review copy. I want a review copy. That's just the reality of post-pandemic collectors, and it's just like I said, it's shallow energy. It's fake energy. And I know I've kind of been a little all over the place, but I hope I've illustrated the point enough that, when I started collecting, I know I started with cards, and this is not about cards, but when I started collecting cards, every hobby was just for people in the hobby. When I got into comic books, it was for people that were into comic books. When I got into books, it was people that were, into books. And same with movies. When I got into buying Blu-rays, it was people that were into buying Blu-rays. Like, you wanted a copy on your shelf. And now every hobby's been overtaken by people that just want to flip it, want to make $1, or people that just want to be some sort of influencer. But I'm sorry, when I was on YouTube back in the day, and me and my buddies were making card videos, none of us wanted to be influencers. We didn't want, we weren't like begging like Tops or Upper Deck, like, please send me free cards, bro. Now, if that happened to somebody, and I'm sure it did, where, their channel got popular, and Upper Deck or Tops or whoever sent them a box, that was like a cool thing, like a big deal. It wasn't something that like we all set out to like beg for. And I just don't really like this. I don't like it. It just feels nasty when everybody's out to be an influencer. They're all out to sell you something, and these companies price gouge us, and people pay the prices. I mean, if we all stopped paying these prices, I don't really buy expensive paperbacks anymore. I look for the best deal I can get, as low as I can get, for like a normal price paperback. Like, if I want to read like a trashy like paperbacks from hell like paperback, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna buy a reprint, or if there's no reprint, I'm not gonna pay you like $300, bro. I'm gonna look until I find it somewhere in the wild, somebody with the normal price. I just really don't like seeing a new 4K come out and it's $70, and what are we getting? I was talking to one of my buddies about this topic before I made the video, and he was telling me, he's a few years older than me, and he was telling me back in the day, you would buy the DVD. And then maybe later, a DVD comes out with, let's say, random example, an audio commentary by Tom Cruise. And it's like, oh man, I gotta buy the movie again, but at least I'm buying it again for a cool reason. All of these, like, post-pandemic collectors, they just come into the scene with, like, this whole, like, I gotta buy every version of it, no matter how expensive, and please, maybe they'll send me a review copy. And, I just don't like it. I just don't like the way things are right now in like any community I look in, whether it's books, whether it's movies or anything. And there have been times where I have dipped back in just to check it out how collecting trading cards and sports cards has been in the 2020s, and it's all the same thing. It's all the whole like, I really despise this when it's like you'll open up a card video and it starts out with like a guy like barely opening the pack, and then like he's like screaming like, oh my god, I can't believe like and then it like that's like the like reverse cliffhanger, I guess. I don't know what to call it, like the cold opening, like the little like part they'll put at the beginning, and then they'll get into all their shilling, and they'll be like please trust me, the video is not boring, it gets better. Like, I'm sorry, but if that was the cool part, why not just start it there if you're afraid people are going to click off? Like, you must be afraid people are going to click off your video for a reason, right? If you're like, I have to start with the cool part or they'll click off. Like, yeah, have you ever thought about maybe not doing like 2 minutes of intros and all your shilling and And today's sponsor is, and check out my Patreon kind of thing. Like, you ever thought maybe if you skipped all that and just got right to the point that people would stay instead of trying to like clickbait them or engagement bait them? But you know what, guys? I think we've talked about a lot of things, and I think I've gotten like a little rambly here towards the end. So that's all for now, guys. Thank you for watching.